Liftoff.
And good evening, everybody.
Hey, good evening.
Again, it's us and Terry eating chocolate limes and Kev down there. Mark's not eating anything. He's going to choke. Oh, he's going to drink. Yeah, cheers. Right, so who we've got on chat today. We have 107 Drones. He's been here since 7:42. No, 7:35. Okay. And we got Chuck. We got Laurie. Hi, Chuck and Laurie. And Simon's there. And Jackie's there. And Caroline's been on listening to Windswept Rob. I saw you in the chat. I saw you. And Kim, greetings everyone. Super guest tonight. Awesome. Aha. And Jerry, how's the weather out in sunny Canada? Don't know. I'm sure we tell you probably got snow. Who else we got here? Oh, Brian. Brian, where are you, Brian? There you are. And Silver's Surfer. I'm still got to find out where Silver's Surfer. Well, I need a picture up there. I want to know. And DWU. What did I miss? We haven't missed nothing. We just started.
You started?
Yes. Northside Hook and Harvey. Buenos dias, Harvey.
Hola.
In sunny Spain.
Buenas tardes, Harvey. Buenas tardes.
And I keep my mouse is not clicking, but work mouse. What's this? Chuck says he's sorry. I don't know what he's sorry for.
No joke this week, Caroline.
And Sally. Hi, Sally. Not Judy Jack there. Stevie Knowles, here he is. Well, evening drone seekers. Evening. Unfortunately, he's evening, yes. Right, I think that's it for now. So,
no, don't forget Captain Joe.
Where is he?
Captain
sorry.
Joe.
Sorry, Captain Joe.
And
Right,
John
Captain Joe.
Flying Finn.
Must have it.
Flying Finn.
John Flynn.
Flying Finn. Yep. Right, so we've got 27 people watching. That's 27 likes, yes?
Oh,
Yeah.
Maybe.
Put my life in.
Plus 5. Yeah. Right, so moving on. No time to lose and all that. Let's just get rid of this banner because we need to make space for another one. Right, okay. So everyone happy, are they? All good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jackie's been flying the hell out of her Avata.
He is the Avata Queen.
I know, but did you see what happened at the end of my last video?
Jackie, it's not real.
Our social friend Harvey.
Did you
What
find
happened?
any of the pieces?
Harvey shot her.
Blew it into
Harvey
pieces,
shot me.
Terry. I mean, blew it
Harvey
out.
shot me.
Yeah.
You'll all have to tune
Is
in
it
and see what happens.
pieces?
Shot him.
I haven't watched it yet because I've been in the theatre. I've been in the theatre for the last 8 days.
You need to watch my last
In the
one.
theatre.
So, special guest time. Yes?
Yeah.
You got a special guest time? Yeah,
Bring
let's
him
do
on.
it.
Bring him on.
Let's welcome this week's Drone Seekers live show special guest.
Yes, it's Matt Williams. Hello, Matt. How you doing?
Hello, Matt.
All right from sunny Stoke.
Yeah, Sunny Stoke. I say, I feel like I should take a bow or something. I think I've been clapped in for a long time.
Oh, go on then.
How you doing?
So for anyone who doesn't know, Matt runs a one name of the company is UAV Hub.
UAV Hub, yeah, that's it.
And UAV Hub, for those who don't know, I'll tell you what, I'll show a little clip of Matt. Matt can tell us in his own video. There we are. Where are we? There you go.
Hey everyone, it's Matt Williams, Mr. MPW, and welcome to the channel. I'm a former RAF helicopter instructor and combat-ready pilot, and now run the world's largest drone training school, where we've trained more than 2,000 people over the last few years to fly their drones safely, legally, and to build successful businesses. Join us on our mission to create the world's leading online aviation school and follow the journey as we help thousands more people experience the exciting world of aviation. We'll be travelling the world, hooking up with some of the biggest names in the industry, and we look forward to bringing you along for the ride. So, why not climb aboard and join the crew as we take to the skies? I've been Matt Williams. Fly safe and blue skies.
There you go.
I want that t-shirt. I like that.
That's it. No messing around, eh?
So hopefully that sums it all up. So, there we are. So how long have you been? Well, I was going to say flying drones. That's probably in the aviation world. So, what got you started in the first place?
Yeah, that Matt. Yeah, this Matt. Yeah. I don't know. I've always been obsessed about it, right? So ever since I was a kid, like the family joke was always that my first word apparently was Concorde when I saw it flying over when I was in a pushchair, which is pretty hilarious, really, because then I was just obsessed with it growing up, and but again, being from Stoke and where we grew up and stuff, there was no option for me to learn how to fly. Like the family didn't have any money, we had no connections into that world. And I, for me, model flying was the way I got into aviation back in the day. So I got my BMFA A and B when I was 12 and 13, really young. Joined a local model club. We couldn't afford to buy any model planes, right? So the way I used to get flying was to go and help at the local model club. And help people fuel their planes, and I'd be the one running with the Watt 4s trying to help people take off and stuff, like running along, chuck it into the air, and hope they didn't loop it around back into you, kind of thing, before you made it back to the pits. And through doing that, people would let me buddy up with them, and I think they were like, actually, yeah, this kid's fairly good at this. He's got the skills to do it, and ended up flying lots of model planes, teaching other people. So that was how I started back in the day.
Back in the day,
yeah. But then you ended up flying helicopters for the real deal, right?
That's it. Yeah. So I was, like I say, always obsessed with aviation, right? And that was what I wanted to do. So on the side, while I was at school, I set up a company writing software and building computers. So I managed to save up enough money for me to go and do my pilot's license over in Florida. So I sold that business, applied for the Air Force at 16 for a scholarship, and got rejected because of the way that I spoke at the time. And I think it was one of those, right? It's like you're there and you've got all the Wing Commander Heckington Smythe and people like that, right, at the selection board, as it was back in the day. And this must have been 1999, right? Yeah, something like that. I was 16, 99, 98. And the world was quite a different place, right? And officers in Her Majesty's Royal Air Force, as it was at the time, were all landed gentry from the home counties, what, and they didn't want a rapscallion from Stoke making their way into the ranks. So that's it. So they turned me down. So I was like, right, bollocks to you. I'm going to go and sorry, we're allowed to swear on it. I do that.
Yeah, you feel
so earmuffs, right? If anyone's listening. So that was it. I was like, right, fine. They said, go away and get some life. Did really well in the aptitude, really well in all of the selection. It's kind of the 3 days officer aircrew selection. You did really well, but you need some life experience and you need to learn how to talk properly. And I was like, right, bollocks, I'm going to do it then.
I'll be back in
that's it. So I'll be back in 18 months. So leave it with me. So I went away. I finished my last A level. I flew out, jumped on a plane to Florida that day to go and spend kind of well, I ended up spending about 6 months over there in the end because I got offered a job out there flying by the flying school to become a co-pilot on the King Air that they flew expensive, like rich people and celebrities and stuff around in. So I stayed out there and got my CPL, my FAA CPL IR, and and it was really weird actually. Right, this is a story. So the time I was successfully selected for the Air Force, I think was in a large part due to the fact that I landed at RAF Cranwell in a Learjet. And walked out onto the tarmac. He was like, "I'm here for selection." The guy who owned the flying school and the company that I then went and flew for, they did a lot of charter work, and and he was like, "I'm going to get you this job." And it was like, right, the charter, we hopped in and we did a flight down, landed, and it was like, wow, it was pretty crazy. Yeah, so that was how I arrived at my officer aircrew selection second time round. The young lad from the Council Estate in Stoke, right? So
Quick question, Matt, and this is kind of an aside. We had a tragedy yesterday here in the United States that you probably are aware of. A P-38 into a B-17 at an air show in Dallas, and of course destroyed both aircraft. And what's your take on that? How could that even happen? That is kind of a mystery to me, how that could even happen.
Yeah, so I did quite a bit of I did something called the Post Crash Management Incident Officers course, and alongside that, quite a bit of work towards. I helped on a couple of service inquiries and boards of inquiry, we call them here in the military, when there are accidents where people unfortunately lose their lives. And if I'm honest, I wouldn't want to speculate. I don't think it's fair, personally, that people do that. Until, because the families. I don't even know if the kinforming's happened yet properly or what. I presume it has, because you tend to know when your family are flying, right, and where they are. But yeah, for me, I'm sorry, I don't chat about stuff until we know the report. So I've watched the videos and it's horrific as an aviator.
Oh my God.
I've come very close a number of times myself to mid-air collisions and stuff. And sometimes it's just not your day, and the big sky theory isn't on your side.
Yeah,
so,
I actually watched a video. I think it was quite an old video, but a guy did a lot of acrobatics and whatever in shows. It was a little red double winger plane. The guy was very sort of talented sort of pilot, great at doing all these things, but just one of the things, the plane seemed to just go out of control, and that's it. That day he sort of lost his life. It's very sad, and I think it's like anything else. It's accidents happen for whatever reason. We don't always know why, whether they ever found out what happened or not. I don't know. I mean, planes have black boxes. They can see whether there's something gone wrong with it. But do all planes have some sort of black box in the back? The hell?
Yeah, not all of them. All the modern day ones that are built after a certain date do, by law. They have to have them. Or they have to have, if you carry passengers after a certain date, you have to have at least a cockpit voice recorder. But generally it's aircraft over a certain weight or that operate in a certain category. So it's unlikely, unfortunately, that those would have any kind of system on them that would allow anything like that to happen. And I think, unfortunately, it will be down to a human factors.
Well, our hearts go out to the people at the Commemorative Air Force who owned both of those aircraft, and they knew all the people on board. So it's just a tragedy of huge proportions.
Yeah.
Your hearts go out to all of them.
Big time, especially at the weekend and what they were trying to celebrate, and all that sort of stuff. And here's the thing, right? With that kind of stuff, I think as pilots, as aviators, we all know that every time we strap a plane or an aircraft to ourselves, there's always the potential that you're not going to make it home, right? Regardless of how, and often it's the most mundane, boring trips that are the most dangerous. And in the military, we used to spend our entire lives flying around at low level in formation, often in horrible places, getting shot at and things like that. And if I'm honest, when you look back at the risk, those jobs that we flew, those missions that we flew that were in combat, or the training missions that we did around the world at low level, were actually the highest risk, but the safest flying you would ever do, because it was so well planned and it was so well orchestrated. And the entire crew, you know, not just in your aircraft, but in the whole formation, are all looking out for each other, because it is dangerous as shit to do what you're doing, right? But it's then the medium level transit on the way home at the end of the day, having been trooping all day and wazzing around at low level and going under power lines and things like that. It's that medium level trip home that's the one that's going to catch you out, because everyone, you know, you
A little
sit
bit
there
more
with your-
relaxed.
yeah, you let your guard down to a degree. You try not to, but that's what happens, right? You become complacent. I think it's there's a statistic, isn't there? And I don't know what it is. I'm not here to talk about this, I suppose, but there's some statistic that I remember reading a while ago, and I talked about it at a flight safety day, where something like 90% of fatal car accidents happen within 400 meters of the destination. Because you get like, oh, I've made it now.
It's like autopilot at that point, isn't it?
I think, oh, there you go. I think someone just put it right. It's also true of your family car. That's it, right?
Yeah, it's also your family car. It's true. I think that's Kim's got a question for Matt. Right, okay. Sorry, I can't see me.
Oh, God, it's this wasn't what I was going on for. Oh, my God.
Well, Kim, just to let you know, Matt, Kim is a PFCO and whatever. He's got all qualifications for flying drones and whatever. So as of hearing about the DFC and the CIA announcement yesterday, what does affect the latest Mavic 3 Classic? Well, basically, what they're basically saying, from what I can make out of it, is that the UK are not going to recognise all the C codes, all the classifications on the drones that the manufacturer's going to put on there. So
C code means nothing for the UK, is what you're saying, Steve.
Basically, they're saying is the rest it's going to be a European thing. That's it. And, as in, sorry, an EU thing, maybe more clearly. But so I don't know when it leaves the UK in the drone front. Matt, have you got any comments?
Yeah, so it's one of those. Again, you know, I think I was saying just before we came on air, right? We as REs, and this is. So it's funny that you played the Mr. MPW channel intro, right? I was obviously really active on that back in the day, and you guys, you know, supported that very heavily when we first started. Did a video every single day for a year almost, where I talked about the rules and regulations a year, 2 years before they came in, to try and get people to understand them, and I became the kind of almost the by proxy the face of the CAA, or that people thought I was. You know, and this is. One of the reasons I stopped doing it was two reasons I stopped doing it, right? One was because I was getting death threats from people in the drone community who were so frustrated at the rules, and they thought I was the man from the CAA. And I'm like, I can just throw this out. If you actually go back a year...
Matt has no connection with the CAA.
Yeah, I'm not. If you go back a year or 18 months on the channel to some of the very first videos, it was me doing open letters to... the then transport secretary and the DFT to say, because I'd written to them, I'd called them, I'd emailed them, no one was listening. I was like, look, we have to jump on this now as a model community, because if these changes are brought in, because I think they wanted to charge 20 odd quid at first for the flyer ID and all that sort of stuff.
I think it was about £24 or something.
Yeah, and I was like, no, it needs to be free, right? It needs to be free, because you're not going to make things safer by charging people. All you're going to do is mean that people go and do it without reading the rules. I don't care. So, you know, so I was like, no, I'm not the man from the CAA. Stop threatening me and my firstborn. Like, you know, it's just drones, all right? It's just drones. But yeah, so it was really important for me to try and help people. But you know, obviously, we find out about this stuff at the same time as everybody else does, which is one of the big frustrations I have. And that's the second reason I stopped doing the channel, right? Is because I told the CAA what I thought about them at the time. In a conversation like this, actually, with Sean at Geeks Varna, and I had a very lovely letter posted through the door a couple of months later from the CAA, threatening to take our school away from us, take UAV Hub away from us, because they thought I wasn't they questioned my fitness of character to be the accountable manager. If I was saying things against the CAA in public, I may be teaching the incorrect things, or I might be inciting that into our students. I was like, you couldn't be further from the truth. I've been I've been the messenger, really, and taken a lot of flack. And I think even, from what we've been told, even some of the people at the CAA watched our stuff because they didn't all understand the harmonised regulations when they were first brought out. So that was why I stopped the Mr. MBW thing, right? Because I was just like, look, if you can't help people if they don't want to be helped. And
I think with your channel, I mean, you actually did sort of put it in plain English, because rules and regulations come out, and you read it, you think, what the hell does that even mean? So his voices like yourself actually come on, people like me and Kev and all of us, and so in simplistic terms, what it means is this, and that's it. And it's great, because I mean, I did my A2 CFC, and to be honest, I thought, well, some of this I just do not understand, because how can I do an A2 CNC but I don't even understand what the hell I'm trying to understand here? And then when you sort of watch videos like yourselves and the other guy we have on here, they do videos and put it into simple context. You think, right, got it. Because I don't understand all this red tape. I just don't do red tape at all. But
and that's the thing, right? That's the big thing. I mean, that's what I used to do in the military, right? As a training officer, it was trying to take the military documents that, if you piled them up, were like 6 and a bit feet high, and make it so people could understand them and operate within them. And here's the big thing. So I think, going back to answering Kim's question, these things have only just come out. I'd already left the office at 5 o'clock on Friday before I think the thing dropped at like 4 o'clock, right? So the first I heard of it was when someone messaged me and said, "What's this all about? I want my money back." Blah blah blah. And it's like, whoa, steady. Like, let me read it first and understand it all, right? I'm unfortunately I'm away this weekend, but the long and the short of it is that everything until now, the end of 2025, continues exactly as it is today, exactly as it was last week. So if you've got a drone under 250 grams, register as required. To operate that, read the drone code and operate safely. If it's bigger than that and under, if it's a bigger drone than that and you're flying your Mavic 2 or Mavic 3, whatever, that kind of drone, then do your A2 and it gives you lots of flexibility. If it's above that, then do your GVC. And that's what it is. And if you don't want to do any of those things, just do the registration as required at the CA for whatever you're flying, and fly in the countryside and enjoy yourself, or fly 150 meters away from people. Like, we can still enjoy the things that we want to do. It's just very frustrating because we're trying to set ourselves up for the rules, as complicated and as frustrating as they were when the EASA rules came in for us, for a glorious 59 seconds at midnight on the 31st of December, when we adopted the EU's rules and we hadn't changed them yet. It was going to be really good for everybody, because all of a sudden the manufacturers are like, they have an incentive to create a series of drones that were done to a specific standard, and they were effectively guaranteed to fall within a certain risk category. And that would allow us to do X, Y, or Z depending on the training you'd done, and it would have made sense to do that. And as a British citizen at the moment, we could have gone and flown in France or Spain or Italy or wherever, commercially or whatever, if we got the one certificate, and that was glorious. That's what we've been shooting for since the very beginning, back in 2012 when the regulations first came in, and it's even more of a pain in the balls than it was. So
I mean, that's the frustrating thing about this. People, when we were in the EU, I mean, I assume this is because we're not in the EU anymore that things change. But you think when we were in the EU, it was a harmonised system, and now it seems like everyone wants to just separate the UK from the rest of the EU. To me, I just think just leave it as it is. Just harmonise. Just like one set of rules, please. But that's the CIA for you. Sorry.
Well, and in this case, to be fair, and I will call it out if it's okay, this one wasn't the CAA, right? This is the Department for Transport that seemed to have made this change that, you know, the CA, as a community, and I think you guys pushed it out as well. I think we all, or lots of people, if they were invested in it, completed the consultation over the summer, and that's why we've got this extension to the legacy period, which is amazing. That's great. We needed that because there was no way anything was going to be done by the 31st of December this year. And let's face it, right? That's kind of out of the DFT's hands because of the party that's been going on around the parties that are in control of the country, right? And I'm trying to say whatever I can now, so I don't get a letter suing me, right? Like, yeah, we all know what I'm saying, right? And yeah, so I don't think there was ever going to be the legislation passed that needs to be passed because there's too much going on, and there are, you know, there are bigger things going on in the world right now, right, than us wanting to fly our drones and stuff. Let's face it. So, you know, let's fix the big problems if we can, and then we can worry about this. So I think extending it makes sense, but yeah, why we've moved away from harmonised rules, I don't know. It's
and the thing is as well. I mean, obviously, you know, people are watching, thinking about doing the A2 CFC or the GVC. I mean, obviously, UAV hub. There's a lot of people I know have actually done the A2 CFC with yourselves. So, you know, just, I mean, Kim's saying on the we're booking my A2C next year when my PFCO.
Here's the thing that, thank you for kind of mentioning it, but I don't want anyone to do any of the courses unless it makes sense for them. Like we don't do it to make money. We do it to help the industry and to help everyone be safe. I mean, that's why we give our training away for free, right? You only pay if you want to do this.
But it's beneficial. I mean, I did it, and I must admit, I mean, when I did the A2 CFC, I mean, I really suddenly realised how much I didn't know. It was quite an education to me, to be honest with you. I just decided I'm going to do it. Didn't know really why I wanted to do it. I suppose it's during lockdown and there was nothing else to do.
So the A2 CFC, is that similar to like the Part 107 that I have in America?
I would say the GVC is more like Part 107. Because obviously
it's like a basic kind of airman certificate type thing. It sits below the 107, definitely. Into, you know, there's no flying requirement or anything like that. It's just a basic kind of learning theory course, and then an exam and a bit of self-certification at the moment. So the thing
that I thought was ridiculous about the Part 107, and really it was interesting to me, so I enjoyed doing it, but do I really need to know how to read METARs and TAFs? And I mean, I'm not. You know, I go outside, the sun's out, there's no wind. Yeah, I'm going to fly my drone. It's cloudy and windy and rainy. No, I'm not going to fly my drone. But anyway.
That's it.
I mean, the thing is with the 107, I mean, the 107, I mean, the GVC, you still have to, you do a practical test for that, don't you?
And we didn't. We don't in the US.
The 107, you don't.
Right.
I got one of the, well, I suppose one of the first international treble 3 exemptions. So before the 107 existed, and we had to, basically it was like, and I think they changed it fairly quickly from the feedback those first few hundred of us fed to them, where it was like, you don't need to know private pilot stuff and how to offset for drift to fly a Scimitar 8 around a stadium or whatever it may be. It was just like, what? But yeah, it's we're getting there, right? And then they're going to do it with RFID, but we won't get into that.
Well, Tim, probably quite likely we adopt some different requirements that foreign American Chinese manufacturers are in any way going to produce aircraft that will be in accordance with UK rules.
Oh yeah, they are. The UK is a big market for them. Yeah, they're going to produce whatever they think will sell. So.
Well, I mean, I don't know what the sales are in the UK. I've got absolutely no idea whatsoever. But what's this? Being in Australia, living on Ireland, takes more than 20 hours to get to the UK or the USA. Takes ages to get anywhere. I was wondering, but you can feel that here. I've got a clue. Yeah,
I think with the number of sales, like I would imagine that the number of sales now that the regulations are up in the air and we don't know what's coming and going, I think we'll see sales drop off significantly. You'll see sales. We'll always see sales of things like the Mavic Mini series be high because it gets around a lot of the rules and regulations, and they're so good now. And this is the thing, right? This is why I say don't pay to do your training courses if you get a drone that doesn't require it. But that's why we offer our training for free. Come and do it so that you learn how to do things safely. But we don't charge unless you want to do the exam at the end, and the majority of people don't, and we don't want them to, right? So,
well, because after the end of this, I think it's as from the 31st of December in the UK, anything that's actually manufactured outside the UK is going on the UK market. We're not going to have a CE mark anymore. We're going to have a UKCA mark. And apparently, time is going to have to the name and address of the manufacturer. And I'm thinking that's going to be interesting.
The sub 250 market
component
is going to be huge. The sub 250 market is going to be huge. Even if you think about the lower end, the bargain drones that they sell on Amazon and stuff, companies like this guy right here, this has not been released yet. They sent it to me to help with development. But it's a sub 250 drone that, that's an Amazon drone that's never going to be, doesn't even have a gimbal on it. So, but that market is going to have to be sub 250. It just is. And so all those companies are scrambling to get there.
Another question.
Marcus just broke his NDA.
Another question.
Trust me, on that one, I'm not worried about it.
Kim's got a question for you, Matt. He's saying, right, another question for Matt. PFCO to GVC crossover course.
I mean, with the regulations as they were on Friday at 3 minutes to 4, you needed to, the GVC is going to be the requirement for renewing your CAA permissions as of the end of next year. So at the moment, you can use what people traditionally call the PFCO. It's actually their NQE certificate is actually what the CAA use, but it was always called the PFCO course. So you'll be able to use your PFCO course until next year, but after that you've got to do the GVC. And if you I know we worked hard to put an agreement in place with the CAA as a company to say that if someone had a current CAA permission and they had done 2 hours flying in the last 3 months, which is the CAA requirement for permissions, they could come and do our PFCO to GVC conversion course and not need to do the flight assessment again. So and I think there's quite a few of the other companies have kind of copied what we managed to achieve there with the CAA.
That's a big deal, isn't it? That's huge.
Yeah, that's it. So it saves that because, to be honest, a lot of the people who are doing the PFCO to GVC crossover, especially if you've done your prerequisite 2 hours in the kind of 90 days before, they don't it doesn't make them any safer necessarily to come out and fly. Like, there are pros and cons to it. I don't disagree with that. But from a practical point of view and keeping people safe, it's like, know the new rules and regulations, and people have, they fly the way that they fly, and as long as they're sticking to what they've said in their ops manual, then it should be safe. So we managed to get around that. So do the crossover as and when it makes sense. And we do an ops manual update as well as part of that for free. So I think it's only like 250 quid or something at the moment for the crossover course if you don't need the flight. So
there you go. Kim, hope that answers the question. So Marcus, you're gonna.
Yeah, I got another question for Matt. So when I come over to the UK to fly with my friends Steve and Kev, is there reciprocity with my Part 107, or what would I need to do to be legal to fly in the UK?
Yeah, there's not, unfortunately. So you would need to. I mean, you could come and fly, right? But you'd have to get the whichever one of the kind of operator and flyer ID you needed for whichever drone you're flying. And then if you want to do commercial stuff, then you would need to do your GVC effectively, so that you can go on to their ops manual and fly under their operations manual. and
Yeah,
with their
don't bother
permission.
Marcus. Come to Spain and
Yeah.
fly with me and Terry.
That's it. Yeah, just get your A2 and you'll do that.
I will, Jackie, but flying with you and Terry, what would I have to do as well? There'd be some hoops to jump through as well.
Stay well away from anyone.
Yeah, just go out the boondocks and don't worry about it.
I'm not saying the word.
Luxembourg, Marcus.
Exactly. Get the
Well,
Luxembourg one.
here's what I think is absurd about
Yeah.
the whole thing. So I have a state of Idaho driver's license. I could come to the UK. I could come to Spain. I can jump in a 2-ton machine and go hurtling down the highway at 70 miles an hour. But
Yeah.
I can't fly a little
fly
drone.
a
There's
little
no
drone.
reciprocity
Exactly.
with my
Yeah.
Part 107. It's kind
But
of
in all fairness, Marcus, I mean, it'd be a lot easier for you to come to the UK, right? Come to UK, just register with the CAA, pay your £10, it's £10 now, by the way, not £9 anymore, as I found out the other day. Pay your £10, get your ID, your operator's ID, you stick the little sticker on your drone, and away you go. I mean, it's as simple as that, Matt, is it?
It is, yeah. The difference being, though, is that, and there's no reciprocity in terms of CAA to FAA either. Well, there never has been, right? I had to do my treble 3. So the difference is that you can do yours where you are now, and then so that when you land in the UK, you can just crack on.
you're ready to
Whereas
go.
I have to come over and do my 107 at a FISDO, right? So
Right.
I mean, and one of our families, I mean, like in Spain, I thought the whole system in Spain was a lot more complicated than it was in the UK, in all fairness, because you can't just go onto a Spanish website and register for this and go, right, that's me sorted out then. I mean, look how long it took you and Terry to.
Took ages, took forever.
Took
You
an
had to
age,
play
didn't it?
with
Yeah.
person.
But the way around it, I think, realistically, is do the Irish CFC.
Yeah.
A2 CFC.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what a lot of people do, because obviously Ireland are in the EU,
Yeah.
and I assume that's all you
I
need to
think
do.
the Luxembourg one, I think we did in the end, didn't we, Jackie?
Yeah.
Well, I
We
did the
did.
Luxembourg. I did the Luxembourg thing, but I don't think that so entirely entitles me to fly my drone in Spain, as I understand it. I just so
It's
confused.
European, huh?
Yeah.
It is, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't think it was just as simple as that. Because I mean, you guys both done that, but didn't you have to do something else as well in Spain?
Well, we did the Spanish
You have
one in
to
the end as
register
well.
it. Yeah, you have to register it and do a training course. Once you've done those two things, you get your 2 little certificates.
In Espanol.
No,
In
no,
Espanol,
did it via Luxembourg, so it was in English.
No,
Oh, it was in English.
no, I
Oh,
did the Spanish one in Spanish.
Oh, did you?
Wow.
Terry's a glutton for punishment.
Yeah.
that's why the
Yeah,
NOTAM's
it's hard.
confused you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've ever in Spain with the and like I say, it's free, no charge, nada.
So Tanya brings up a good point in here. She's talking about a checklist and a log, and I know that is a requirement for a Part 107. Now, so she keeps it in a physical book because I've seen her logbook. However, often we have our logs are kept by the app. Does that work?
Yeah, is
I'm
that
sure
not good
for.
enough?
I mean, I would say that's a log. That's a flight log, right? And it shows where you flew and everything you did.
So a little bit of insider knowledge. I'm not even sure whether we're meant to tell anyone about this yet, but we.
No, we won't tell
So
anyone else.
this is it. So this is something that was sent to us on Friday, and it's one of those where there are different categories of flying in the UK, right? So you've got the open category, which is meant to be, and this is under these EASA rules that we're talking about.
Yeah.
There are different categories of flight. So there's the open category, the specific category, and the certified category. And the open category is meant to be low risk drones. So they're the small drones, or if you're flying large drones away from people, it's in the middle of nowhere. That's where this whole ability to fly a large drone 150 meters away or in the countryside comes from. And under the open category rules, technically you don't need to keep flight logs or anything like that.
No.
And that's the way it's always been. When you step up into this specific category, that's when you're supposed to keep flight logs, and the CA can audit those, and and that goes towards your GVC and all that sort of stuff and getting your permissions. But one of the things that came through to us on Friday is that the CAA are now going to start requesting that logs are kept for operations in the open category. Now, before everyone goes run away up with that, I have got an email that I'm sending in to them tomorrow to say, well, when you say logs, that's not a requirement in legislation under the open category at the moment. So what do you mean? And what are the minimum requirements that you need in a log? Because for me, it's a bit like the smart batteries, right? Like back in the day, we used to keep battery logs, really detailed battery logs for all of our batteries that we flew with, because they were dumb batteries, right? You needed to know how many cycles had gone through and how they were holding their charge and stuff like that. And we used to chart it out and plot it so that we knew when batteries were going off. And it's like, well, actually, we've kind of done away with that now because the smart batteries tell you when they need replacing or when there's something wrong with them.
Exactly.
And it's like, well, okay, cool. If someone's flying a smart aircraft, if they're flying a DJI drone that logs all its own stuff, why do people need to keep a logbook? It's all in the app. And I know I say that now, right? But from a professional aviator's point of view, it'd be like, well, no, I want to keep my logs separate because I have had it where the DJI app has lost all my logs or it's doubled them up. Or it, and that does make things awkward. So that's probably what they'll say is no, it needs to be on paper because of X, Y, and Z. But there's no requirement for it in legislation in the UK at the moment in the open category, but there may be soon from what we've read.
Well, I sort of make it a bit more complicated already.
That's it. Throw some more in the mix.
Yeah, check it out. Yeah, but right. Okay, I've got a video. This was sent to me. This might need a flight log. This video.
Nice.
Not sure about that.
Flight log cut someone's hair.
Yeah. Jackie
I
was
love
saying
those
that.
videos because it's like every person in there's been told, "Do not look at the drone," haven't they?
Yeah.
Cut your hair.
I just want to know what drone they used. It was really quiet. You could hear all the.
I just turned the music up loud so you could hear.
Hey, Steve, I don't want to lose Tim Holyoke's comment there. He's saying the problem is that people who are responsible fly safely. People that don't like the rules ignore them, and that is so the truth. We've got all these rules in the U.S., yet we're always hearing about somebody flying into a football stadium or a baseball game or something idiotic like that.
Or an apple, yeah.
Even on so some big YouTubers, for instance, Casey Neistat published a video of running in the New York City Marathon just the other day. There are drone shots in there of him right above 1 million people down there running in the marathon, of above streets and cars. That is against FAA regulations. But there it is in a video getting millions of views on YouTube.
Even with a small drone, I mean, no sort of, intentional flying over crowds. You say, what is a crowd? Someone said to me, well, how do you define a crowd? I said, well, I'll define a crowd as a group of people who couldn't disperse quickly. That's a crowd to me. You've got four people, they could run in 4 different directions. We've got a crowd of people, and the middle people couldn't move anywhere until the outer people move. That's a crowd.
Yeah, could be, couldn't it?
And why not?
The side of that coin is, Steve, is when was the last time you heard about a drone falling from the sky, falling on somebody's head and injuring him. I've never heard of it once.
Well, I haven't.
That's not to say it can't happen, but
No,
the
yeah.
chance is very slim. Really slim.
But whilst there are people doing that and breaking the law and flying over people's heads, then that chance is going to increase, isn't it? You know, but if you get one or two people do it, they'll get away with it. Hopefully, it won't happen. But when you get sort of like, if you got said, right, 500 people will go flying in drones and fly over people, one's going to do something's going to happen, isn't it?
I did miss a cyclist, Marcus.
Pardon me, Terry?
I missed a cyclist.
Oh, yes, I
When the
forgot
back-
about the battery. The battery missed
The
the cycle.
battery
Yeah.
blew up, and Monday night, and we were right out in the sticks there, weren't we, Jackie?
Yeah,
Well
a couple
out.
of mountain bikers came past just as Terry's battery decided to swell, burst out the drone, both fell to the earth, and then, I don't know, 5 foot to the right of those cyclists? Can't really
Wow.
Just
remember.
missed them.
And,
But you
Jared,
see-
and Jackie had it all on video.
I
Yeah.
did.
Where's the video? Where's the video?
Oh, it's on my
It
channel.
happened at it happened at ski championships as well, didn't it? Where a massive drone fell just behind the slalom racer. Just missed him. It was literally, well,
Inches.
yeah.
That'd probably sound like an Inspire or something.
Oh no, it was a proper like Alta 8. It was like a sky jib type thing. It was a
Wow.
proper
Yeah.
big copter. And
Oh.
it would have been a fatal, right? Because I mean the skier was probably doing 50, 60, 70 miles an hour as well.
It wouldn't have been good.
I knew you just read that. I got
We've all
that on
done that.
camera as well.
And that is what I'm saying. That is pilot error. But I didn't intend to do it.
And there was blood.
Oh,
There
there
was
was.
blood.
And Jackie got it on video.
I got it on video. My mum was there. She
You
got out
noticed
of
this, Mark?
class.
Jackie got it on video.
Yep.
Jackie got it on video. Oh yeah, Jackie got it on video. Jackie did get it on video.
on
You
video.
should see
Mind you, Jackie didn't get me crashing my drone into the roof on video because she was really bloody taught to do that.
No.
However, I voluntarily given them. There we are. It's the footage.
Is Jackie using this as blackmail then? Is it like she's got the dirt on you now and she's
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
shock you if you need
Oh, yeah.
it?
That's all because I filmed one of her drones rushing to Morocco.
Yeah.
And she said,
Oh, that's good.
no, it's not. It's live.
Blasted.
Pardon?
Was it Harvey had the plaster? No, I was
Oh,
in
yeah, it was
plaster.
Harvey at the plasters. My mum had the tissues. I can't
Yes.
remember.
Yeah. So that's when your drone's landed, and you think, I'll just move it over that way because I don't want it. So it just. But the truth is, with those DJI that's racing drones, they're dangerous. I'll tell you.
Well, the other point that I wanted to make is and I'm sure it's the same in the UK and probably the same in Spain. Every local TV station now has a drone that they'll do B-roll flying their drone over this or that.
Yeah.
Every time you watch the news, you see them flying a drone over a big crowd of people or over a street or over things that the FAA says you should not do, but they're doing it commercially, and I don't know. And so I think that's
Mark,
the idiots say, well, let's just go ahead and do what we want.
we now on all of the beaches along the Costa Blanca, there's a drone stationed on every beach, and that's flown by the lifeguards to
really?
isolate or to pinpoint any rescue needed. Or I think, do they carry something with them, Jackie?
The one I saw on the beach just looked like a drone, but
Just a
didn't
stra-
look like
yeah,
a
something
carrier. So, just like for observation, isn't it?
Yeah,
Terry,
the police have got
Produce the tech,
them, the army's got them, they've all got them.
we've got.
We don't need them.
Terry, would you like to do your little thing now, or?
I will. I just want to say to everyone, look, I don't, especially today, I never do, and I won't ever say a joke on Remembrance Day. I'm ex-services, along with, I know, a lot of other people, both sides of the water. I don't do jokes on Remembrance Day, and that's in remembrance of a colleague that got shot by the IRA, all of that. So forgive me if I don't say a joke, but I would like you just to listen to this. It's something someone sent it to me, and it reminded them of their grandfather. And it normally you find on Remembrance Day, there's an awful lot of remembrance poems and stuff going around about military, generally about soldiers. For this one, it's a sailor's grave. Poppies grow in Flanders Field over the heads of the brave. Poppies don't cover a sailor's grave. Flowers won't grow on a wave. On land, there is usually a marker, a cross, a stone, or a tree. How do you mark the resting place of the ones that are buried at sea? They are no less the fallen than the others that are interred on the land. That their graves are unadorned, the seamen, they'll understand. They chose to sail the oceans. They knew where danger lies. And if tragedy ever happens, the sea claims the sailors who dies. That's it.
Yeah,
And when I saw that, I was touched. I thought, no, I'm going to pass that one on.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice.
So,
Well done,
thank you for
Terry.
listening.
We normally have. We've got. I've got another video here that. So yeah, just remember us. Just our way of remembering people who have fought, and lost their lives, so we can have our life that we have today. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Ross sent me this. Ross. Well, we know what Ross his videos, but this one is just as good as the rest of them. Watch this.
That was
Good
nice.
shots from there.
That was dramatic music.
Yeah,
Well,
wasn't it?
and Ross is just the king of those Twilight videos. He just does an amazing job.
Yeah.
He makes everyone jealous. And
Yeah.
So, Matt, do you actually fly drones yourself now? Do you at all? Or?
Yeah, sometimes, but I tend to do it just to grab B-roll and stuff for things that we're making. So went from my first kind of foray into that was when we were big model helicopters and putting cameras on gimbals at the front that we were building ourselves, before the drone thing started. And then, all the way through. I think the last kind of heavy lift stuff that I did was for World Sailing. So we kind of we did the first ever live international sports broadcast from a heavy lift drone. Wow. And it was absolutely terrifying, if I'm honest, because we were flying this really expensive camera and more expensive downlink and we were flying it off a 3 or 2 engine. One of them was 2 engine, one of them was 3 engine chase boat live on the America's Cup course in Bermuda with a piece of wood on the back of it and taking an Alta 8 off this piece of wood. So we'd stop the boat, right, lift in, take off, right, continuing, and they're like, put it in manual and flying an Alta 8 in manual with like £250,000 worth of camera and downlink underneath. I clipped in, so I wore a climbing harness and clipped into the front of the chase boat, and it was like ging, 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 chasing after these America's Cup boats that were just like, these guys, like, they've trained their entire lives to do these races, and we've got the director in your ear is like, right, drone, get closer, I want to see the whites of his eyes. And you're like, oh my God, oh Jesus. And of course, like, when you're doing that with these massive drones, you got 6 minutes of flight time, right? and that's like 6 minutes of flight time, and you've got to be back on the deck. But the thing is, so you go from you wait until 10 seconds before these two boats get to you, and they kind of converge around the bottom mark or whichever mark they were coming towards where we were sat, and they come together, and it's like, oh, you're sat right in the way in the chase boat. It's like, right, I'm airborne. Woof, and you get up, and they move the boat out of the way, and you're trying to then get in as tight as you can, and you don't know when they're going to attack or jibe, or I don't know what the lingo is. I'm sorry, but and they and they like
going that way,
like 50 knots across the water, and you're chasing after them, and then it's like all of a sudden, then it's like 30 seconds from the spotter. 15 seconds, it's like landing the Apollo, right? Where he was running out of fuel, and you're like, oh my God! Right, stop, right? It stops the boat, puts it in reverse. And then you've got probably about 30 to 45 seconds to calm everything down, get it back into GPS or into ATI as it was, because you were too far out to sea and then land it on we actually had someone catching the legs and helping it down, and they'd be like, right, get off the course, hot swap the batteries, get back down to the leeward mark. Oh my God, and then ready to go again. It was those jobs were it was the worst holiday I've ever had, because I had to do some work, right?
Call that holiday.
But it was probably, well, the way I've said it was like every day was about 15 or 16 hours long, right? So it was 16 hours interdispersed with about 4 minutes of sheer terror. And it was like, oh my God, a little red light comes on the controller to show that you're live. Oh bloody hell, don't mess this up. So I do a bit of flying, but it's for me now. I get lots of requests to go out and still fly for people, because the stuff we did, and I think the reputation we had, we always got the shot. Touchwood, never had an accident, and we did a lot of high risk stuff, flying in places where other people couldn't, and doing things that other people couldn't, but doing it safely. And that's what I prided myself on doing. So
Tim wanted to know, what does Matt fly now?
I've got a Mini 3 Pro. I've still got all my big drones and stuff. But I fly a Mini 3 Pro.
I think it's a great drone. I really do. I mean, I've actually got rid of I've literally got a Mini 2 and a Mini 3 and the Avata.
Why would you get rid of drones, Steve? What's the point of getting rid of drones?
If you're not flying them,
fly them. That's what I'm saying. Fly them.
Yeah, fly them.
I have got a DJI FPV as well. I've got the DJI FPV, but
I love that drone.
If,
The
right, so
DJI
this is
FPV.
the thing, right? Like FPV for me, FPV is the future of our drone stuff. I think, like the media. I think in the media world, it's going to go away from the heavy lift stuff, apart from certain applications,
Yeah.
and they won't want me chasing after these boats or cars and stuff with an FPV with a heavy lift drone.
Heavy lift.
They'll want it with an FPV drone. But I mean, God, please stop doing it in Formula One until whoever's doing it can do it properly. Jesus. It's so embarrassing. But yeah, but I can't do it. I used to do. I did quite a bit of FPV a few years ago with the analog stuff and small home built. But the DJI FPV, I can't wear the headset for more than 5 or 6 minutes without needing to go and lie down. It makes me feel so sick.
Oh,
and
I never found that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really weird. I just cannot do it without needing to throw up. And this is someone who's like, I've flown fast jets upside down at night, right, and been bounced around in the worst turbulence ever at night with goggles on when you can't see a horizon. Like, I'm cool with motion. I don't get motion sick, but you put me a pair of DJI FPV goggles on and I'm gone.
I've got
I do sit down when I fly mine. I do sit down.
I
Yeah.
can't do that. I can't sit down. I have to stand up.
I got a quick question for Matt. So Matt, what is harder to fly, a real helicopter or an RC helicopter?
Ooh, interesting. They both have their nuances, right? Because like the stakes are a little bit higher generally with a real helicopter, so it's. But if I'm honest, I would say model helicopter. Model helicopter is harder to fly than a real helicopter by a long way, because helicopter's easier, right? Because whatever you see out the, I say easy, it's easier because whatever you see out the front is out the front. If you want to make the cows go that way, you push the stick that way. If you want to make the cows go that way, you push the stick that way. If you want to make them get smaller, you pull that one up, or you bigger, you put it down, right? Like that is as simple as it gets. But in a model helicopter, it's like, oh my God, because you know, take off in a helicopter and there's a headwind or a wind from the side, and you feel the aircraft into the hover. Whereas, you know, you take off a model helicopter and there's a wind and you're not facing it, or you want to take off nose in or fly nose in against the wind without any stabilization, and you've got to work all that out. And again, it comes naturally, right? Once you've done it a lot.
Once you get it.
I told you, I was in a model shop and I saw this. It was, well, I don't think it bloody big was, but it was a model helicopter. And the guy said to me, he said, "Oh, do you know, you interested?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "I wouldn't be." I went, "Why is that?" He said, "Have you ever flown an RC model of any sort?" I said, "No." He said, "And you want to buy an helicopter?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Yeah, I wouldn't." I just don't. I'm like, do you want to make a set? Oh, I can't. I'll go next door and buy one. But
I would also say I think it's cheaper to get into real flying than flying a real helicopter than it is to get into flying RC helicopters. Jesus Christ, the amount of money I lost trying to fly those model helicopters at first. Oh my God. Yeah, it was crazy. I've just seen what was TikToks on a Westlander hard. I've just seen from Caroline Tyler. That's hilarious. Yeah, quite. Because TikToks are one of the moves we do in the model helicopter world. Yeah, I wouldn't get away with doing that in my Puma, right? It's everyone's really thrown up. That's for sure. That's pretty funny. I love it.
No, someone saying don't get rid of your question earlier on, Marcus. I mean, why get rid of drones? Well, to be honest with you, I mean, I like to think that one finances another. You know, I mean, I had the FPV drone, the Mavic 2 Pro, which I hadn't flown for about a year and a half. I thought, well, I have a system here. If I'm not flying it, what's the point of me keeping it? Let someone else have the enjoyment of it. And the same with the FPV drone. I was going to buy the Avata, but I know what happened. I bought the Avata, and the FPV drone would be sitting in the case, just sitting there collecting dust, and eventually I think, I'll get rid of it. So
Steve, here's the issue for me is I'll sell a drone, or often I give them away. However, I either keep buying more or they keep sending me more. So I never get ahead.
if I was like you, Mark, I work Monday to Friday, so I'll probably just sell them on eBay at the end of the week. What do you think that
I think
drone?
it's
Yeah,
very-
very nice. Yeah, I've got a couple of quid for it.
I think the drone world for me, I've always thought is very much like the cycling world. If anyone's ever been into their cycling, I used to do a lot of cycling back in the day, and it was always like, you know, the number of bikes someone needs is n+1, so you always need an extra bike, right? And you never get rid of stuff. And it's the same with drones. Like when people are into it, I think you kind of get emotionally attached to it, right? I'm not
I
selling
got 3
that.
bikes.
There you go.
I've got 3
that's it.
bikes.
And how many
and I've got-
can you ride at a time?
Well, I can say
I
this:
need the time
all
trial
of my-
bike, and I need the cross bike, and I need the mountain bike, and I need the other one with the different cassette on.
The guy I work with, believe it or not, he has a collection of bikes, and he just buys bikes for the hell of it. And he can tell you all about all the different. He'll say, "Well, that bike, oh, that's on such and such a frame, and this and that. It's got this gear." And I think he's got in excess of 40 bikes.
Oh, wow. That's
Jeez.
quite a lot.
I can
So,
kind of relate to that. But I'm going to say this: every one of my neighbors, all of my neighbors on my street, they all have a drone.
Excellent.
I bet they do. Marcus,
Here!
You see in America when they ride around on a bike and actually throw newspapers to you. I mean, please, I don't know if they still do that. But Marcus does it with drones. Oh dear. Well, someone wants to buy. Someone's offering $50 for the lock bar.
That's Barclay.
Yeah. I'll cover the freight. Marcus will deliver it for you. What about? He'll deliver it on a drone.
Well, Barclay has a few drones himself, so
Yeah,
There
when
you
I
go.
first come across him, I thought he had 107 drones because I didn't know what the 107 was.
Well, that could be.
Oh, yeah,
107, but maybe, yeah.
Maybe he has got 107 drones. I asked him.
No, I think he's got 94 or something.
What's his better? What's his better? He used to do long distance serial, but I never had more than 10.
10.
Well, Mark's
I've got,
name is
I've
never
got 3 drones as well. I've got, of course, one's at the bottom of the sea, but
I mean,
still own it, don't I?
Jackie, you got 2 drones and you're quite happy with that. I mean, probably platypus don't get a look anymore, no doubt.
No, he does. He comes out every time.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's a great point because the video that you produced, Jackie, with Platypus, which is what arguably 3-4 generations old, is still amazing. It's still amazing video.
The Mavic Pro was a good drone, a very good drone, and I mean, I got rid of mine, and afterwards thought, mind you, I'm trying to sell it back to me the other day. Do you want to buy it? But no, I'm not going to go backwards. Right, anyway, it's time. Folks. It's the time to go home. We've had so much fun as well. Matt, thanks ever so much. It's been
Thank you for having us on. It's a pleasure. Nice to meet you all. And thanks for
Yeah.
all the support over the years and stuff. We wouldn't, I wouldn't be able to do what we kind of do, and hopefully how we help the community. Although a lot of people don't see, I think, what I try and do.
And just to
we
everyone,
couldn't do that without you guys.
Matt doesn't work for the CAA, okay? He represents us to the CAA. Just in case.
I don't wear my CAA T-shirt when I come online. That's for sure. It's,
He's undercover for the FAA.
Yeah.
Matt, you probably better off working. Better off working for the FAA. Oh dear.
Oh, shit.
Anyway, thanks everyone for watching, and we'll hopefully do it all again next week. I'm sure we will. And Matt, Kev, Terry, Jackie, thanks very much, and we'll see you all again. Marcus. Don't forget
Marcus.
Okay, take care, everyone. See you next week. Bye bye.